In the late 1990s and the dawn of the 21st century, no corporate entity on Earth embodied the raw definition of the Internet quite like Yahoo. For the generation that witnessed the birth of the World Wide Web, Yahoo was the official gateway to the digital cosmos. It was our premier search engine, the email vault harboring our deepest secrets, and the chat rooms where we met our friends for the very first time. Yahoo was a colossal digital empire valued at over $100 billion, and everyone assumed its dominance would last forever. Yet behind this vibrant, trusted purple facade, an invisible nightmare was quietly brewing. A nightmare that took years to unravel, and when it finally breached the surface, it didn't just paralyze Yahoo, it shattered Silicon Valley to its core, forcing humanity to realize that its internet privacy had been dead and buried without its knowledge. In late 2016, specifically as Yahoo was desperately trying to finalize the acquisition of its operating assets by telecommunications giant Verizon to salvage what was left, CEO Marissa Mayer stepped forward to issue a quiet, shocking press release. A security breach had compromised 500 million user accounts. The world assumed this was the ultimate disaster. However, just months later, in October 2017, the absolute terrifying truth detonated in everyone's faces. Yahoo officially admitted that the breach didn't target 500 million users. It compromised all 3 billion accounts in existence. This meant, quite literally, that every single human being who owned a Yahoo email, a Flickr account, or a Tumblr profile since the firm's inception had their data stolen. It stood as the single largest mass data heist in human history. The narrative behind this monumental breach is not a simple tale of attention-seeking teenage hackers. Rather, it is an incredibly complex conspiracy where organized cybercrime directly aligned with the world's most mysterious and feared intelligence apparatus, the Russian Federal Security Service, universally known as the FSB. In this special cinematic documentary from your channel MindBit, we will untangle the threads of this intercontinental digital conspiracy. We will expose, with precise technical detail, how Russian spies collaborated with elite hackers on the FBI's most wanted list to construct a clandestine backdoor inside Yahoo's infrastructure. We will break down the system architecture of cookie minting, the exploit that allowed them to hijack any email without a password, and reveal how this saga triggered the total collapse of an empire. Focus on every detail, because your old emails and personal secrets were active assets in this shadow war. To properly comprehend the technical intricacies of this historical breach, we must travel back to the year 2014. Inside Yahoo's main headquarters in Sunnyvale, California, network engineers believed their infrastructure was fortified behind cutting-edge firewalls. However, the elite hacker contracted by Russian intelligence named Alexei Belan, one of the FBI's most wanted cybercriminals, knew that the strongest security matrix can be breached through its weakest link, the human element. Belan didn't attempt to storm Yahoo's digital vault through a brute force assault. Instead, he studied system engineers using social engineering, launching a targeted spear-phishing email at a specific internal systems operator. The second this engineer clicked the link inside the email, assuming it was a routine corporate transmission, a silent malware payload was deployed inside his machine. This malicious link allowed Belan to infiltrate Yahoo's internal corporate network, moving slowly and with extreme caution to avoid triggering security alarms, lateral movement. Belan was hunting for one highly prized target, the User Database, UDB. This database was the beating heart of Yahoo, the centralized ledger storing usernames, backup emails, phone numbers, recovery cryptographic password hashes built on legacy algorithms like MD5 and bcrypt, and most critically, security questions and their plain text answers, such as your mother's maiden name or the first school you attended. By late 2014, Belan successfully copied and exfiltrated this massive user database to his remote servers. Yet Russian intelligence was not content with merely possessing encrypted password hashes, which could easily be changed by users or shielded by two-factor authentication. The Russian spies demanded eternal invisible access to any targeted email box without triggering alerts and without the account holder's awareness. It was at this juncture that the cryptographic minds of Russian intelligence engineered one of the most complex software bypasses in Internet history, an exploit that granted them direct access to email inboxes without ever typing a single letter of a password. Digital forensics investigators would later call this exploit cookie minting. To properly comprehend the cryptographic magic executed by the Russian spies, we must first answer a fundamental question. What is a session cookie? When you log into your email by typing your password and verifying your 2FA, Yahoo's server doesn't force you to retype them every time you click a link. Instead, the server transmits a tiny temporary digital token called a session cookie to your browser. This file operates exactly like a digital ID card, whispering to the server, "This user has already been authenticated, grant him entry." However, the critical point is that these cookies are digitally signed using a private, highly classified cryptographic key owned by Yahoo to prevent forgery. The hacker Alexei Belan, once inside Yahoo's network, did not merely clone the user database, he successfully infiltrated the underlying source code of the company and exfiltrated the master cryptographic key used for signing cookies. With this master key in their custody, Belan and his handlers within Russian intelligence possessed a virtual minting press for forged digital identities, cookie minting. The threat actors wrote a simple script, entered the target's email address, signed the custom token with the stolen master key, and instantly minted a perfectly valid session cookie that Yahoo's servers accepted without hesitation. The spy would simply open their standard browser, inject the forged cookie into the browser's storage database, and navigate to Yahoo Mail. The server read the forged token and declared, "Welcome back. This cookie is signed with our master key. Please enter without a password and without sending a verification code to your phone." This elegant exploit allowed Russian intelligence to compromise and monitor thousands of high-value mailboxes for months and years without triggering corporate security alarms, because the access control gates viewed the spies as legitimate, authenticated users operating from trusted endpoints. Subsequent FBI forensic audits revealed that the breach and the subsequent cookie minting operations were not random cybercrime. They were fully orchestrated by two intelligence officers within the Russian FSB, specifically Dmitry Dokuchayev and Igor Sushchin. These state officers shielded the hacker Alexei Belan from international law enforcement and extradition, and in return for this protection, they commanded him to direct his offensive arsenal to serve the geopolitical interests of the Kremlin. The FSB drafted a highly classified surgical target list designed to service Russia's state priorities. The targeted list comprised over 6,000 precisely selected accounts. Among them were independent Russian investigative journalists auditing state corruption, political dissidents opposing President Vladimir Putin, military officers within the U.S. Department of Defense and the White House, executives of global telecom networks, and aviation service employees to track the physical movements of foreign diplomats. The most alarming twist was that the FSB commissioned another hacker, a brilliant young Canadian Kazakh named Karim Baratov. Karim's operational mandate was that whenever a target's primary inbox resided outside Yahoo, he would penetrate the victim's backup recovery email on platforms like Gmail or Yandex using advanced phishing and social engineering exploits. In 2016, as Yahoo stood on the precipice of selling its core internet business to US telecom giant Verizon for $4.8 billion in a desperate bid to salvage the crumbling empire, the breach exploded onto the world stage. Marissa Mayer, who had been brought in as the company's savior, found herself legally forced to disclose the catastrophe to investors and the federal government. The scandal sent shockwaves through Wall Street. Verizon threatened to pull out of the deal entirely, claiming Yahoo had sold them completely compromised, damaged goods. Following grueling negotiations under the crushing weight of the scandal, Yahoo was forced to concede a massive price cut of $350 million from the acquisition price. The bleeding didn't stop there. The company faced hundreds of class action lawsuits from angry consumers whose private secrets were exposed, forcing Yahoo to pay millions in legal settlements. Marissa Mayer forfeited her annual bonuses and resigned in disgrace. By 2017, Yahoo's legacy as an independent pioneer was terminated forever. Its remains were dismantled and consolidated into a subsidiary entity, bringing a tragic end to the Internet King due to decayed security policies and prolonged technical negligence. Here we arrive at the intellectual resolution and the profound lesson we must explore on MindBit. The collapse of Yahoo isn't merely a story of a corporation losing market valuation or a state-sponsored hacker running rampant. This case exposes the fragile illusion of digital custody. We hand over our secrets, our private correspondences, our family data, and even the recovery answers, defining our identity to tech giants under the assumption of safety. We exist in an era where we export our entire lives to remote cloud servers, assuming they are unassailable because the hosts are wealthy. Yet the reality is that a single broken line of code or a compromised master key is sufficient to completely strip our digital civilization bare before spies and cybercriminals. If you valued this long-form, cinematic investigative documentary from MindBit and discovered how the FSB stripped Yahoo of its digital throne, I strongly urge you right now, my intellectually curious friend, to activate the notification bell and set it to all and hit that subscribe and like button. Our upcoming videos will deliver deeper, highly explosive technical exposés and investigations, and toggling that bell is your absolute guarantee to capture the full truth the moment it live streams, bypassing the volatile YouTube algorithms. Share this documentary with your friends to spread digital defense awareness, and always make sure to see the screen and see the world from a completely different perspective. And I'll see you in the next legendary documentary.